Hey guys, this is John here in Los Angeles with the Alpha Channel update for Thursday, October 24th, 2024. Things are heating up out there. I don't know if you've noticed, but the crazies have been turned up to 11 and the normal people are getting crazy now too. So Kerr Halderson's Yggdrasil. It's funny that this election comes right through Halloween, isn't it? And that Hillary lost that election because of that Marina Abramovich news, that satanic news that broke right about this time, way back then, all those years ago. Today's card is Hell. Hell needs no introduction. Although I should read what it says down there. Hell, the ruler of fears. The ruler of fears. Hell. There was a movie a while ago, and I didn't know I was going to talk about this, so I'm spacing on the actor's name. He was also the director. He's a Jewish guy. He was in the movie Drive. He played he played the other mobster with Ron Perlman. His name's Albert something. Starts with a B. His last name starts with a B. And in this movie, in heaven, the test of heaven is not being afraid of things. Is facing your fears and not being afraid. And they put you through this series where you have to watch your life back, and you basically, like, it's an extended therapy session about what are you afraid of. You have to face your fears. So Hell, the ruler of fears. If you live your life in fear, that is hell. Not being afraid, whatever you have to do to not be afraid, that's what you have to do. I don't know how that applies to today's Conan book, but I'm sure it will somehow. Talk about facing your fears. This doesn't end well for Conan this episode. This is 254. No, 255. Starts off with Conan in the bar. And look at how this is lit, or colored, or lit. So you have Conan and the girl in the foreground, the waitress. Then you have these people in the midground who get no light. They're sort of like the audience at the comedy show. And then you have these guys in the background, in the distant background, who have plenty of light on them, because that's Hob and the other guys gambling, right? I think that's who it is. Here's the cover again. I love these Ernie Chan covers. They're very gritty. Ernie Chan has a very gritty style, but I like his composition. I like how there's always something going on. It always relates to the story. I love the covers that he does. And this lighting is really good. I believe this is still Nell Yamatov. And it was Nell Yamatov all the way through all these issues, who's been experimenting with the highlights on the face. So it is Mike Doherty on the pencils, and it is Nell Yamatov on colors, but it's Alfredo Acala on inks. So that's what's different. Again, Ernie Chan did the cover. Ernie Chan did the embellishing and inks for John Buscema for all those years. And so here we get the story. What I really like what Roy Thomas is still writing. I really like what he's doing with these stories. These stories are gap fillers. Conan is with Hob, by coincidence, going back through some towns that he visited as a youth. In this book, it just so happens that it's issue 8. I have 2 copies of issue 8 here. One of them is in significantly better shape than the other. This is the nice one in a nice bag, so I haven't taken that out. But this is the story of the Jade Serpent, Conan, number 8 by Barry Smith. And I was thinking about this. So there's a few things I wanted to talk about today, and I'm already spacing on them. But one is specifically that Barry Smith got paid significantly less than John Buscema. And some of these books were taking him twice as long. The books were coming out every 8 weeks instead of every 4 weeks. So that's a lot less pay for a lot more time to do the work. They were paying him less, and it's over 8 weeks. It's not just every 4 weeks. So this is the story of the Jade Serpent. Conan steals this serpent and gets caught with it. This part that specifically relates, look at how faded these colors are. I wonder how different. Let's see how different they are in this one, huh? I said I was gonna, the champagne of life is comics. Let's see how different this is. Ooh, this is a stiff book. I probably paid some money for this. There we go. Okay, so let's see how vibrant the colors are in this copy. A little bit sharper, I would say. A little bit crisper. Yeah. Maybe not. I don't know. Let's see the next page. And this is some of Barry Smith's best work. This is issue number 8, Conan the Barbarian. And the part that they talk about in the, that's the new one. The part that they talk about in the book is down here. And there's some interesting things. Look at this. Barry Smith was drawing half pages, and so they got creative with the ads. So that you have to look at the ads to see the pages. And the ads aren't even that good. It's not like they're creative ads. But I believe this is the scene with Conan in the bar. Maybe it's at the end. Maybe it's a couple more pages down. Yeah. Here's the scene that they're talking about where the merchant, the Jade Serpent bites the merchant and kills him, and Conan and the girl escape. And that's the end of the issue. Escape on the horse. And so then we get back to this. This is really cool. They're letting Roy Thomas go through. This is Conan 10 years later, visiting the same bar, and he asks the waitress the story of the Jade Serpent, and she tells him how the merchant was, not the merchant, the magistrate, the town magistrate was bit and died. And then she recognizes Conan and gets loud about it and calls him out. Oh, here's something I wanted to talk about. And so Conan suddenly finds himself in a fight with the local constables, the local, ruling guard. And then we have this ad, Jim Lee Wolverine over here, right? Jim Lee or Mark Silvestri. I'm pretty sure that's Jim Lee. And the next page is even more of this. Yeah. So Conan fights with the guards. Again, great comic. Conan the Barbarian. He fights them to a standstill. Somehow he loses his sword. He doesn't throw a sword in this one, but he does get captured. And the seducing of the girl is basically this waitress who was there 10 years ago and is still there today and has now recognized Conan. And here he has a sword in his teeth, swinging from the Jade Serpent, trying to get to the door, and the chain holding the cage to the ceiling snaps. And this is interesting. So I make these sorts of, I suppose it's an error, or it will be filled up later, it will be taken up later. Right here is the last we see of the Jade Serpent. It goes down in the crowd and no one talks about it again. I'm guessing in the next issue, which I actually don't have. This is 255 and I don't have 256. I have 257. I'm guessing in the next one we learn the destination of the Jade Serpent. I'm certain that Hob picked it up because he really doesn't play any other role in this issue. All we get is Conan. Conan and these soldiers go south to fight, not to fight, but to loot the city where Conan found the Jade Serpent 10 years ago. And he shows them where it is. And this is them going there right now. They do want Conan to fight in their army, but first they want to take him there and get some more treasure, I guess. And he's showing them where the fights were, and there is, of course, no evidence of this. And they do not believe him. This does not go on very long. Because here they find a bunch of purple corpses that have the purple plague, which is mentioned on the cover, the purple plague. And so the purple corpses are here, and the soldiers start to loot the bodies for, whatever they can get. Rings, jewelry, weapons, armor. And then these Hyperborean priests show up and say, don't do that. You're not going to want to do that. Stay away from them. They're sick. They're poisoned. And Hob steals a ring. These are the guys that we saw in a previous issue when Conan was telling a story about his youth. These are Barbarian witch doctors, witch kings, whatever, working for the Queen Yamatala, something like that. That's what we're going to call her for today. Conan immediately goes to fighting them. He can't figure out how to use their power staves, and these witch kings sort of let Conan and his crew go. And one of these guys knocks Conan out with a rock because he insists on fighting the Hyperboreans, and so they carry him off on a pole, kind of like Luke and Han Solo in Return of the Jedi by the Ewoks. And they carry him like this for quite a ways, like at least a couple days. And Hob is forced to carry him too. And meanwhile, these witch kings set about bringing those purple plague victims back to life. Because they're necromancers. And this is Queen Yamatala who helps them, and they tell her about Conan, that he was there, etc., etc. And so as soon as these dead bodies, these plague victims, are brought back to life, they're sent immediately right after Conan and his crew. And it doesn't take them long to catch up to them. Not only that, Conan and his crew are starting to suffer the effects of the plague themselves. So this was always the plan. They were always infected because they were allowed to take some of the jewelry and whatnot. And all of them get this plague, and the witch kings and their warriors are on them anyhow. Oh, the other thing the witch kings do is they resurrect these ancient guys. See these ancient guys in the armor on the cover? They resurrect 6 of them. They're special Hyperborean warriors. So they're down here, and they're on this next page too. And so not only do they have the dead plague victims, but they have these guys. These are the guys that Conan fought in the past who disintegrated in the daylight, which is a little bit of exposition here in the book. And now they don't disintegrate in the daylight anymore. And so Conan and this crew who have taken him hostage or prisoner are now attacked by the Hyperboreans and the dead plague victims, and they drop Conan, and the only person who comes to rescue Conan is the waitress from the bar from 10 years ago. She's the only person who comes to help him, and she cuts right here you can see her feminine hand with the bracelet cut his bonds, and she gives him a knife, and he pushes her out of the way of these Hyperborean warriors, these dead warriors. Conan's always fighting zombies. And here we get a couple pages of him fighting them. And it does not end well, this issue. I do wish I had the next one. But we get 2 pages of action. Mike Doherty. Good ending. Strong ending to this comic book. And but in the end, Conan has the purple plague down here at the bottom. This is the last page. There's nothing after this. See? Nothing after this. Conan has the purple plague and is dying, and we'll never know, or we won't know tomorrow, what happens in 256 because I don't have that. The next one I have is 257. But it is pretty cool that after 250 issues, Roy Thomas has earned the right for his character to walk back through his past and tie up loose ends. That is pretty cool. We still don't know what happened to the Jade Serpent, but look at this comic. Barry Smith, Roy Thomas, and Barry Smith. And I know I had some stuff I wanted to talk about, but I'm spacing on it now. Everything going on in the economy, in the world. You know, I did want to apologize. I have been pretty abrasive on here and said some pretty outrageous things, some pretty racist things. I remember abusing people if they'd taken the vaccine, and I know a lot of people were forced into a situation where they had to go along to get along. And I feel bad for that. I feel bad for them. I feel bad for abusing them. That was not polite of me. But it's even worse of me to ask for your forgiveness, isn't it? Or to apologize. But my goal out here isn't to offend a bunch of people. My goal out here is to promote Legacy of a Mad Scientist and The Legend of Ashley Fox, two amazing novels that you can enjoy a few different ways, either as ebooks, as paperbacks, or as audiobooks here on YouTube. And we have a comic book, and I was flatting some more today. This is Ashley Fox, Ninja Babysitter, The Last Valkyrie. This is issue number 6, and issues 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 have not been drawn or even written. But this is sort of the end of an arc, and yeah, that's Valeria right there. This is Ashley Fox, The Last Valkyrie. It's the name of this issue. So, what did I want to talk about? What did I rush into all of this for? There's some elements of this that have become criticism and not review, and I definitely don't want to do criticism. I definitely want to do review. I want to do promotion. I want to promote this character and this story. This is so Conan here is an action comic, really, but this one is a horror comic. You know, it's just a sword and sorcery fighting not vampires, but zombies in the past, and soldiers and whatnot, and you know, it's good work. It's good work. But what is it about, you know, art for pay, artwork and story and fiction as a living, and the way speculation works on it, and the way the market works, and the way breaking into the market works, and the way staying in the culture once you're in will, you know, if you would do anything to get in, would you do anything to stay in? And all the implications that come with that. So here we have, this is a good example. This is important to talk about a little bit. Issues 1 through 25 or so, there was, I believe I counted 32. 1 through 25 regular, a bunch of annuals, and a couple special issues were done by Barry Smith of Conan the Barbarian. It was one of his first big long titles. He was apparently well known through the industry for being significantly less expensive than John Buscema. And after that 2 or 3 year run of 25 issues, 4 years, you know, at twice as long, some of them, so maybe 5 years. After that run, John Buscema got the job anyhow. Now, Marvel licensed this character. They didn't create him. And they certainly didn't build their entire company on him. I don't think you could build one company around Conan. I believe you need more. I believe you need a bigger apparatus, publishing apparatus. And it is interesting, the Marvel method for writing and drawing, where the writer, who is really a super editor, right? Like there's the editor, and then you have also the writer. The writer is coming up with the characters, the character names, the intricate plot developments. The editor is trying to keep track of the whole thing, and then you have the artist who's really doing a lot of writing. The way the Marvel method, the artist was doing a lot of the writing. And I've been thinking a lot about that and how to write that sort of freedom into the scripts that I'm doing now, and still take responsibility for the story you're producing and the emotional outcome, the emotional effect you want to present to the audience. Because it has to be a team effort. You know, they had to define this. This didn't, it sort of existed. There was Western comics, there was horror comics, there was sword and sorcery comics. But they had to define the elements that made this unique. Why does this one stand out? It's not just that Conan hates magic. It's not just that Conan attacks anyone he can with a sword. There's more to it than that, but not a lot more to it, you know? So what's the simple recipe, you know, that gives a franchise legs, perpetuity, right? And I'm certainly not going to solve that right here with you guys right now. But what makes this unique is how it came about and what it grew into, and all the side stuff. I was a much bigger Savage Sword fan than Conan the Barbarian fan. This is Still a little bit too cartoony for me, even what happens in this one. I'm not complaining about it. But how did the girl show up after all that time being carried around? Conan fought they went and found that town, and then they were carrying them, I guess they carried them back to the city, and they were right outside the town, and so it was easy for the bartender girl to find them, right? Like they brought him back to her, essentially. So that's the only answer that makes sense. And then Hob runs off. Yeah. How does this relate to everything else that's going on in the world today? How does making your money doing this make sense with everything else that's going on in the world today? Yesterday, I was talking about spending your time, having a hobby to give your sort of soul some rest so that you're not just chasing money, not just chasing sex, not just chasing drugs. Drugs can be as simple as getting drunk on the weekends watching football. If that's what you live for, it's not sustainable in the long run. And I think the long run's about to get really short here, really quick. The circus is on fire from all edges, as it were. So I don't necessarily have a thing to say. I did earlier have something specific I want to talk about, but I'm just rambling now. So I'm going to cut this short. Hell, the sum of fears, or the ruler of fears. Talk to you guys tomorrow.